Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Maryland Risk Management Education Podcast. My name is Paul Gehringer, and I am the Extension Legal Specialist here in the Department of Ag and Resource Economics at the University of Maryland. And today we wrap up our sort of two-part Penn State episodes. We had Brooke on last week talking about solar with me, and this week we're going to have on Jackie, who is there and runs the Ag Mediation program at Penn State through the Ag and Shale Law Center. So I will turn it over to the pre-recorded interview. So Jackie, it's great to have you on the podcast today. So I will start off with just letting you introduce yourself, who you are, and what you do.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Paul, for having me. My name is Jackie Schweichler. I am a staff attorney at the Penn State Center for Agricultural and Shale Law. And I do a whole bunch of different things at the center. I'm kind of the lady with all the different hats. So one of those hats is ag mediation, of course.
Yeah, and that's why we're going to have you on today to talk sort of about ag mediation. But before we get started with that, I thought you'd have us tell us a little bit about what the Penn State Ag and Shale Law Center actually does.
Right. So one of the primary things that we do is we publish the Agricultural Law Weekly Review. That is a weekly publication that describes all the different important legal developments in agriculture for the week. So we talk a lot about, if there's, I don't know, a new farm bill. Of course, that's going to be something that we talk about. Any sort of cases, legal news. We talk a lot about solar and things like that. So any of those changes that might affect you or your farm, we include that. We also have a publication called the Agricultural Law Trackers or Issue Trackers. And we have different subjects that we do a chronological order, an update of what's going on with those different issues. So something like dicamba or glyphosate, where there's stuff coming out all the time. So you can follow along with those. And then we also have the Agricultural Law Virtual Resource Rooms. It's another publication on our website. So we do a lot of publications on our website that are resources for farmers, ranchers, landowners. Anyone who might have a question about agricultural law, you can find that on our website. We also do a bunch of presentations. So on our Watch or Listen tab on our website, you can actually see YouTube recordings of presentations that we've done, webinars and virtual presentations. And we also have the Agricultural Law podcast that we do. I've done the podcast in the past, but right now, Brooke Dewar is hosting the podcast. He does a fantastic job. It's a really great podcast. It's very interesting to listen to. So I definitely recommend that. And yeah, so a big summary is we at the center, we publish a ton of different presentations and paperwork and all sorts of legal resources. And, if you just have a question and you want to call us or send us an email, you can do that too. So we are a legal resource for farmers, ranchers, and landowners, and sometimes other attorneys every now and then.
Very good. Yeah, it's a very good resource. I use stuff from there periodically when I need to find something on a subject. And yeah. So yeah, the main reason I had you on today is you are the mediation person in Pennsylvania. And I thought I'd have you start off by telling us a little bit about what the USDA Ag Mediation program is, and then kind of just fill people in on what exactly mediation is, because I think people sometimes don't have a clear idea what it is.
Yeah, definitely. I am the program coordinator for Pennsylvania's Agricultural Mediation Program. So the agricultural mediation programs in general, they are a USDA-funded program. It provides mediation services to agricultural producers. So this program, it's all across the country. I think about, almost 40 states, I think, have these programs. So most of us at this point. And in mediation, we get a third-party mediator to sit down with the agricultural producer and whoever else is needed at the mediation. And the mediator helps us come to a positive resolution. It sounds very simple, and it is, but the program we're really just kind of hooking you up with people who can help you resolve the problem in a different way than going to court. As an attorney, love court, love litigation, but maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you don't want to spend 10 grand going to a courtroom and fighting this out for the next 2 years. Instead, you can just sit down and just talk about it with the other person like a human being, and find a resolution that, while it doesn't maybe make everyone happy, it makes everyone a lot less miserable than they would be, just either letting the problem ride or, litigating. So that's the very bare bones of what the mediation program is about and what we do.
Yeah, I would say we have one here in Maryland, and it's a very good program, because usually whenever there's a dispute, the first thing I tell producers is go talk to the mediation people. It's probably going to be better in the long run than going to court over a small minor matter that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you have Kay Megan Washington. She's the program administrator for Maryland's program, and she's very active in all the different programs. I have active conversations with people in New York and people in New Mexico, right? And so we all kind of communicate with each other, and it's a wonderful way for us to make sure all of our programs are operating at our best. But it's very interesting because they're all so different. We deal a lot with dairy in Pennsylvania, and that's something that some other states are like, oh, we don't have any dairy issues. We deal with this. So it's very interesting how different they are. But yeah, Maryland has a great program, and it's good that you recommend them, because they're excellent.
With the mediation program, I know that it started out with USDA mediating USDA disputes only, but it has kind of advanced, I think, under the last Farm Bill, opened it up to a lot more opportunities. So what are some current issues in Pennsylvania that you guys are focusing in on and kind of mediating beyond just the normal USDA issues?
That's a great question. So beyond the USDA issues, what we mediate the farmer to farmer disputes or farmer to neighbor disputes. That's what was allowed under the 2018 Farm Bill. And so we haven't seen too many of those yet, because it's still very new. People don't know that they have this option that they can do. So we've only seen a few. We have one that's we just received. It's about pesticide drift, which is very interesting, and definitely something that we've received a lot of inquiries about to our program in Pennsylvania here. And then we're also able to do farm transition or a farm succession planning, which is a new issue. And that's very interesting because it's such a huge issue, right? And we were not prepared to do that because, we didn't know that was something that we could do until, last year. So I'm considering it right now as a pilot program. We've had a few requests, and we're slowly going through the system, and people have been very patient with us. And, we've been kind of very patient with all the different aspects of that process. But I think once we get that program up and running, I'm very excited about it, because I think there are a lot of farmers who have that need for assistance in farm succession. Because I think the problem isn't necessarily that they don't know how to handle, some of the specifics and the legal and the tax part of it. It's that emotional aspect of it, where you're trying to convince mom and dad to give up the farm, and you don't want to offend brother or sister with this issue or that issue. And so it's really, really helpful when you can have a third party sit down and sort of help out with that. But that being said, all those new programs, we're still, the primary bulk of our cases are still those FSA cases, right? So most of what we deal with are those Farm Service Agency adverse decisions relating to a farm loan, or, a lot of stuff with CREP, the conservation programs, NRCS, things like that. And those are what I consider our easy cases, because we've done a lot of those. And I just think it's such a great opportunity for a farmer to be able to come to us in those situations and, sort of stop the government. Like, everyone pauses, we sit down, we have a conversation, and we've been surprisingly successful in those cases. And I'm very proud of what we've done with those.
So. That's very good. Yeah, I would say farm succession with Maryland's program, that's the biggest thing I direct people to, because when we do farm succession workshops, we have Kay Megan there, and she talks about communication and talks about what ag mediation is. Because at the end I go, you guys can do everything, but talking to your family is the hardest thing you're ever going to do, because you can't come in and be parent at that point. Everybody's got to kind of talk on the same level and talk about what they want.
Yeah, I'm definitely a little jealous of some of these programs that were already set up. I think, in New York, they were already doing farm succession, but it just wasn't under this umbrella of the mediation program. So they were already doing it, but it wasn't funded essentially. And so now that they have the funding for it, it was very easy for them to just jump in and say, "Oh, we're doing farm succession now, and it's part of this program." Done. And whereas we in Pennsylvania were like, "Oh no, how do we?" Because I don't want to. I don't want to start something that we're not going to do right.
Mhm.
We want to do this the right way. We want to make sure that we have everything in place. We want to make sure that we're taking care of people. And so I would say that anyone who has a farm succession issue in Pennsylvania, definitely contact us. And if we can't help you right now, if you need immediate help, we can direct you to someone who can offer you better assistance. But at the same time, if you're just looking for a mediator, we got you. We can definitely do that. So yeah, definitely jealous of some of those programs that had a little bit more of a background on it in the past than we did.
Yeah, but I think both pre 2018 Farm Bill, they worked under some limited state funding to do some of this because there was also
Hmm.
some limited, they were supposed to get involved in right to farm decisions too, to help
Right.
mediate right to farm disputes. There was some limited state funding to use on for both of those. So
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the great things about this ag mediation program is that we actually have the ability under the 2018 Farm Bill to add different issues for your specific state. So, if you're finding in your very specific state that you need to mediate some weird issue, I shouldn't call it weird, but something that's unique to your state, you can definitely add that in. And I definitely, any farmers who are in different states, look at your program and see if your specific issue is covered because it might be. Not every state is the same.
yeah. So with that, yeah. Are there any other thoughts on why they should consider mediation programs if they're available in their state? We
Oh
kind of hit
yeah,
on a few right now.
we did. I think we've talked about it a little bit, but I like to narrow it down when I talk to people, and I talk about how it saves you time, it saves you money, and it can save you a lot of stress. So the big thing is when, especially with the government cases that come in, they don't have to do mediation. They can file an appeal to the National Appeals Division. Instead, they can just skip mediation. They do not have to go through us. And in a lot of these situations, you don't have to do mediation. There's always, you can always just sue instead. But lawsuits are so expensive. Do you really want to spend thousands of dollars suing your neighbor? Right. And you have to see your neighbor again in the grocery store. And do you really want to have to, dive down the soap aisle to avoid making eye contact with this guy because you're in a lawsuit against him? No, you don't want to do that. It's just so much easier and less stressful to sit down, have an adult conversation and say, well, I'm really mad that you're letting your cows on my property like every single day, and they're saying, oh, well, I thought you were mad about this. Most of the time it's just simple miscommunication. So for us to be able to get everyone together and sit down and have a good conversation, you're saving yourself a ton of money. You're saving yourself a ton of stress, and then there's the time factor. We can usually turn remediation around within a few months, right? Or sometimes within a few weeks, or sometimes within a couple weeks. It really depends on everyone's time and availability, et cetera. But with a court case, I mean, that could stretch out for years, and you have to file paperwork and et cetera, et cetera. Whereas mediation, there's not really any paperwork. And one of the good things about COVID is we've all gotten very some excellent experience working with Zoom. And so where in the past we've had farmers had to drive 3 or 4, sometimes 6 hours to get to a location where we could all meet together. Um, Now I just say, hey, can you go to your local library and hop on a computer and we can talk this out? And it's worked. It's funny. You think, well, a lot of rural Americans don't own computers or they don't have access to computers and technology, but I've in this past 15 months, we've not once had a problem with it. It's been shockingly easy. Zoom is so much easier to use than I thought it was going to be personally, and we've had a lot of success with that. And so, I mean, mediation it's easy, it's stress free, it's cheaper. There's really no reason to not try it. There's no downside. Like if it doesn't work, you still have access to those other methods, other things to resolve your issue. So for me, it's one of those things you might as well try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's kind of my big push is that it works great when it does, and it saves you so much money and time and energy. just try it out. So that's my my very long-winded answer to that.
No, I agree 100% with you. That's why I send a lot of people to it. It's like, it's so much easier to go through it. You're going to get your dispute resolved quickly.
Yeah.
And in most cases, a court's not going to give you the solution you want. Mediation is going to give you something that will at least work for you.
Right. Yeah.
It may not be exactly what you want, but you're going to get what you need out of it. As a scholar taught me at one point in my life. Any other last thoughts?
Oh man, I really think we covered just about everything. I might have overtalked because I didn't leave myself much room to add anything here. I think I would just say that if you're unsure if you need mediation, reach out to someone at your state mediation program, because even if that's not what you need and again, if you're not sure, like, do I need mediation or do I need this? If you're experiencing a problem, your mediation program coordinator or whoever that you speak to at that program, they're going to know who you could talk to or who you should talk to. They might say, okay, well, you don't really need mediation in this situation. You need this. And because there's a big network of us who work together. And I think we have a good idea of how to direct people to find the help that they need, depending on their situation. So I would say, reach out. It doesn't hurt. And if you try mediation, it doesn't work. Like we said before, you don't lose anything. And I guess, did I mention that the program is generally free?
I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't remember. That's really important. I probably should have mentioned that. Yeah. So the program is usually free to producers. In some states, depending on the case, there might be a small fee to pay for it. But yeah, it's usually free. So you don't have to pay for anything. And the Pennsylvania program right now is completely free. So again, you're not spending any money on it, and it doesn't cost you anything to ask and try it out. So
it's just saying, it may cost you an afternoon of your life. That may be about it.
Right. A little of your time, and if it works, you've saved a lot.
Time and money.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jackie, for coming on today and talking to us about mediation. This has been great.
Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Maryland Risk Management Education Podcast. If you have any questions, my contact, Jackie's contact, is in the show notes. You can get it there. I've also put a link to the Penn State Ag and Shale Law Center there as well, so you can get to it. Thank you again for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day.